You've done the healing. So why does love still feel so confusing? That's what we're digging into in today's episode. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Secret Formula of Femininity for women who want to live a more feminine, fun, and fabulous life. I'm Dr. Nicole Monteiro, your host on this weekly journey to unlocking your inner radiance, nurturing fulfilling relationships, and becoming the best version of yourself. Welcome to another episode of the Secret Formula of Femininity. I'm Dr. Nicole, your host and guide on this journey to tapping into your feminine essence. I'm so excited to have this discussion because as we transition into a new season, hitting our 100th episode next week, I want to go deeper into how do we apply all that we've been learning. We've been talking about burnout. We've been talking about how to rest in your feminine. We've been talking about money. We've been talking about career. We need to go deeper into relationships and how to apply all the lessons that we've been learning and talking about in your relationship life. Because there is a theme that I notice with so many women, and that is they've done the healing, they've done the journaling, they've gone to therapy, they've set boundaries. Does this sound familiar? They have been working on themselves, and maybe you have too. Some of us are more self aware than we have ever been. But one thing that's happening is that despite all of that, when it comes to relationships, some of you are still feeling disappointed, triggered, even stuck in patterns that you don't know how to get out of. And that's where applying the lessons comes in. And that's what we're going to talk about. Because one of the questions that so many women are asking is, what am I missing? I have done it all. What am I missing? Listen, it's not that you did the wrong work. It's just that healing by yourself, alone, in solitude, is so much different than growing and continuing to heal in partnership and relationship with someone. It's not the same thing. Relating to yourself is not the same thing as relating to someone else. And so, all of those tools, all of those lessons that you learned when you went within yourself and you examined yourself, that's all great, but you have to learn how to apply it when you're in that relationship with someone else. And that's what I want to talk about today. One of the key misconceptions that so many women have is that, hey, if I heal, then that means I am just automatically going to have healthy relationships. But relationships are not just about your individual growth. It's an important part of it, but it's not the whole thing. Relationships activate you, including your nervous system, including your past wounds, your past relationship triggers, including your insecurities, even though you've been working on them. Relationships will trigger all of that in real time, in the moment. And that's where we need more practice. We have to build that muscle. You can absolutely feel healed until it's all put to the test, until someone pulls away and communication breaks down and you're left feeling like, oh my God, what do I do now? Until a need that you really have, you feel like isn't being met and you're disappointed. And suddenly you start reacting in those old ways, ways that you thought you had moved away from, ways that you don't feel reflect the woman that you have become. That's because healing in isolation and healing in relationship feel completely different. Healing in isolation, that's that part where we're like, I am protecting my peace. That feels calm. It feels relaxing. It often feels grounding. But healing in relationship, that is absolutely activating. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's one of the key things that so many people feel like it's a sign that they need to give up. They haven't healed. No, it's just that healing in relationship is a whole different ball game. So let's talk about why. Because it absolutely hits different, as they say. When you're alone, there's so much that you actually can control. You control your environment. No one's kind of penetrating the peaceful space that you have built. You get to regulate yourself at your own pace. You get to decide when you go out, when you're coming back, what you're going to engage in or not. You really are controlling that part of your space and your energy. And you don't have competing emotional things coming at you, whether it's what someone else is feeling, how their day has been, what's triggering them, in addition to what you're dealing with within yourself and within your environment. The opposite is true within relationships. In relationships, there's two different people, clearly, right? Which means there's two nervous systems, which means there's two different communication styles, which means, and this is the important part, there are two different histories and sets of expectations and unconscious triggers and unhealed wounds that are being brought into the relationship. We have a saying in the relationship or couples therapy world, which is we think there's two people in the bedroom, but there's really three. And no, I'm not talking about a menage a trois. I'm talking about the fact that for each partner, there's themselves, there is their partner, and it is also who each of them is bringing. So for the woman, it's herself, it's who she's with, and it's the primary parental figure that either she's trying to emulate or that disappointed her and that she's trying to run away from. And the same is for the other partner. So each person for themselves has three people. Now, if we start doing the math and multiplying, I mean, it can go exponential, right? Because then there are the remnants of generational, ancestral relationship histories that affect how we view relationships. And I did an episode on that in terms of how we are often replaying our ancestral relational wounds. So, bottom line is, even when we think it's just two people, there is so much more to the picture. So, imagine going from you healing in isolation by yourself, creating your peaceful space, regulating yourself, to then interacting with someone else. And that someone else is bringing their stuff, you're bringing your stuff, and it's a whole mixture. It doesn't mean you have to be afraid of this or run away from it. This is part of the richness of being in relationship. It just means you have to understand that that's what's happening. And you have to be prepared to continue to walk that path, especially if you're talking about a long term commitment. If you're talking about marriage where you can't just up and walk away just because you're irritated, you just have to understand it and know how to navigate it. And one thing that gets revealed is that as much as we think we understand our patterns, we really don't truly know our patterns until someone else interacts with them. That's when it all gets revealed. Actually, that just reminded me of a song by DeBarge. Now, if you don't know DeBarge, you need to look them up. Gen X in the house. If you're an elder millennial or Gen X, you know DeBarge. They were an amazing group, a family, a singing group, and they had a song called "Time Will Reveal." And that song, nothing could be truer. That song really hit. Okay, so your patterns are really revealed when you're interacting with someone else in their patterns. Prime example is that you may think you're secure in your attachment. Either you thought you were always secure or you work so hard to be secure and to not be that person who's constantly feeling insecure. But until someone else becomes inconsistent, you don't know if you are actually in a place of being secure. You think you're calm until you feel misunderstood, and then potentially you blow up because you're triggered. And that's not necessarily a failure, that's just an exposure of a pattern that you still need to work through. Now, here's the thing, working through it is not about sitting and thinking and talking, it's about putting it into action. That's why there is a part of your healing that is not complete until you're actually in relationship. This is why I think relationships are so vital. And I'm actually concerned about the trend where people are like, oh, I'm foregoing relationships. I just want my peace. I'm going to stay single forever. And I hear this so much. Listen, I need you to understand. We are wired to connect. We are wired to be interdependent. And especially in terms of our feminine energy thrives in interdependence, in relationship. So, as peaceful as it may feel being alone, please know that there's part of our healing and our growth and reaching that higher level of our potential that really can only happen within relationship. Now, that could be deep friendship, that could be parent child relationship, it could be extended family, but really the deepest growth comes from intimate relationships that we grow in and that we develop and evolve in with someone else. Now, let's talk about some of the missing pieces that a lot of women start to recognize as they put themselves back in relationship, especially if they've been on this solo healing journey. The three missing pieces indicate areas, not failures, but things to continue to work on. So, one thing, and I alluded to that, is this issue of real time emotional regulation. So, it's one thing to regulate and deep breathe when you're by yourself and when you can kind of control your exposure to a trigger. It's another thing to stay grounded in the moment when you are talking to your partner, when you're interacting, maybe arguing, maybe having conflict, maybe dealing with some feelings around something that happened between you two. That kind of regulation takes a lot of practice. It's very different. Now, the regulation you did on your own absolutely helps to set the stage, but doing it in the moment, staying grounded in the moment, being non reactive and learning to respond and not react in the moment, whole different ball game. Real growth is measured in how you respond when you're triggered in relationship, not just when you're calm and you respond in a controlled way. The second missing piece is communication. Now, you've heard me talk a lot about feminine communication and how there's an art and a dance to it. One thing I've recognized is that so many women feel deeply, and that's a beautiful thing. Like we are in touch with our emotions a lot of times. We understand ourselves. But at the same time, so many women struggle to express themselves clearly and to be able to communicate without over explaining. That over explaining part, that's what comes from insecurity. And the other part of the struggle is staying regulated while they're speaking. So that's monitoring things like tone, pace, giving the other person space, understanding that it's a dance, right? So these are things that require two people. Imagine trying to learn the waltz or the tango, but just doing it by yourself, never having practiced it with someone else. You would get it in theory, but there's parts of that dance that will never come together for you until you do it really in real life with another person. I need you to understand when it comes to communication, being clear and having clarity within yourself is much more powerful than intensity. You know, it's funny. This is a bit of an aside, but I was listening to someone talk about Michael Jackson and his voice. Shout out to Katherine Jackson. Listen to the episode before this one because I talked about her role, her feminine role in her family and with her children. But with Michael Jackson, we always think of him as having this soft voice. But there's some clips out where you can hear his true adult voice, which is a deeper male voice. And I heard a musician talking about how he spoke extra high. He used that soft, high voice as a way to protect his voice. And that I didn't realize a lot of singers, a lot of vocalists who sing at a higher pitch, they do that. And it made me think it was a metaphor for a lot of things because a lot of times we go around thinking that the only way to have impact is to be intense and be riled up. But there's also a way that just being clear, having that clarity, having that pacing, sometimes the softer voice will actually get more attention because it's very different than all the noise that's out there and all the intensity that's out there. Okay. So the third area or third way that many women get tripped up is this area of patterns and being aware of and recognizing patterns. A lot of people now are talking about pattern awareness, and that's great. It's great that we're looking at what it means to recognize a pattern, but the missing part is not just recognizing the pattern, but what are you doing to shift it? For a lot of women, and this may be the case for you, you may have healed certain parts of you, but you still are choosing and living out some of the similar unhealed dynamics. You tolerate being misaligned. You tolerate being taken advantage of. You create emotional distance to try to protect yourself. Sometimes you stay longer than you should, or you cut people off too quickly and you leave too quickly. The key is not just self awareness. Self awareness without new choices keeps you in the same old cycles, except now you're aware of the cycle and you're even more frustrated. So the key is not just to recognize or be aware of the pattern, the key is breaking the pattern. The other area where this all comes together in terms of relationships is your identity and learning to shift your identity. This is where everything changes. You're no longer just becoming a woman who heals, who protects her peace, who learns to focus on herself. I love all of those things, absolutely. But you're also becoming someone in relationship who can stay open and doesn't shut down, who can communicate clearly, again, without over explaining, who can navigate tension without clamming up and while still remaining connected, who can allow the other person to be angry and not feel that you have to fix it and come to the rescue and be overbearing or shut down or sacrifice yourself. It is one thing to become whole alone. It is a whole other thing to stay connected in love. And that's where the growth is. All right, so we are up on my favorite segment, which is the Q&A, question and answer. And I love when you guys put questions in my DMs. By the way, we are starting a new anonymous questionnaire. So I'm going to have a link where sometimes you want me to talk about certain scenarios that you have, but you don't want to just DM. You want it to be completely anonymous. I'm going to have a new form, and that is going to be part of the new season. I'm going to answer your deepest questions. You don't have to be embarrassed because it will be completely anonymous. All right, so the first question is, why do I still feel triggered despite doing all of this healing? Again, it's because relationships will trigger a deeper layer. It's like saying you injured yourself and it starts to heal on the outside, but the deeper healing has to be underneath the wound. And it takes more time. And it might get irritated when the scab comes off and it has to continue to heal. It's deeper layers. There are layers to this, as they say. All right, the next question is, and this is one that I get in so many different variations, and it's why do I attract the same patterns? Again, it's not just about recognizing the patterns. The reason you attract the same patterns is because awareness alone is not enough. Awareness must be followed by different choices. And that's putting the pedal to the metal, putting it into practice. That is actually the most difficult part. And think about it. How many of us have collected so much information, so much knowledge, but we haven't put any of it into practice? You all know I love my gym metaphors. And one of them is the fact that nobody can build muscle for you except you. And it can only come from doing the work. You can read about the gym. You can go to the gym and look at the equipment in the weights. You can know what a treadmill does. You can know everything about it. You can watch other people on a treadmill. You can think about a treadmill. You can think about picking up weights. You can imagine it, but nothing is going to replace actually picking up the weights, actually getting on the treadmill, actually getting on the Stairmaster. Nothing will replace that. It's the same with all of the healing. It's not until you apply it to making different choices, however difficult those may be, that's when it starts to become normalized and it starts to stick for you. One of the main patterns that is so hard for many women to break is breaking the attraction and going after the bad boys, the exciting guys, the narcissists, the ones that you know are not good for you, but because it feels exciting, it feels like a challenge to you, it feels like, you're being chosen by one who could have anybody, but he chose you and you get some kind of thrill or validation from that. That is a pattern that can only be broken by doing it in real action, by saying, no, I'm not going to go for that person, by being in relationship and tolerating stability, which a lot of times, depending on your history, may not feel as exciting to you. So it's that part is making the different choices. And finally, question number 3, what does healthy love actually require? I love this because you're not even just saying, what does it look like? You're asking, what does it require? And in that, I hear assuming responsibility because it's not just what does that person do for me? It is what is also required of me. It requires emotional regulation, communication, not over explaining, and being aligned in how you make your selections, not choosing people who don't share the same values, who don't want similar paths or outcomes, who you just know are not right for you. Stop choosing people who are misaligned or stop staying with people who are misaligned with you. So I want you to walk away from this not feeling hopeless, but hopeful. I don't want you to walk away feeling like, I've done so much work. Why is this still so hard? I want you to understand, and I want you to hear me clearly. It's not that you did the wrong work or you did the wrong things or it was useless. It's just that you are now reaching the next level. That's all it is. There are levels to this, as we said earlier, and now you have just gone to the next level. So, congratulations. And as they say, buckle up, buttercup, because there is still work to do. So I want you to know that this upcoming season is going deeper into love and what love and relationships look like for a feminine woman these days. We are applying all of the knowledge, everything you have done to get rid of burnout, to be more balanced, to learn how to communicate, to know how to have mastery over your own life. And now it's about building and maintaining those healthy relationships. I am so excited. You all have been rocking with me. We are hitting episode 100. I have an amazing week. So it's not just one episode, it's a celebration coming up on the 100th episode week. I have some special guests, some favorite guests, and we are digging deeper in a way that's not just going to be impactful, but also super, super fun because we know this journey is not just about becoming your best self, it's about how to relate as your best self. That's the real flex right there. Thank you guys so much for joining. Don't forget to share, hit like, subscribe, leave us a review if you're on the podcast platforms, and leave a comment. Let me know, are you in a place of feeling hopeless or hopeful when it comes to love? I want to hear what you all have to say. And I want you to know that you did not do all of that work for nothing. It's just that you're ready for a deeper kind of love. You've mastered self love. Now you're ready to master relational love. Thank you guys so much for joining. I cannot wait to see you next episode and next season. We are going to have fun. We're going to be learning. We are elevating in a way where we are going to become unstoppable. And of course, if you're looking for a community to help you elevate to the next level, to not only regulate your emotions and your nervous system alone, but to be able to learn how to do it in relationship with others, make sure you click the link in the show notes to learn more about the Boundaries to Bliss Society. That is my inner circle community for women who want to develop their feminine energy, healthy boundaries, and experience healthy relationships. Until next time, stay open, stay soft, and stay feminine. I'm Dr. Nicole.